You know, I think we don't see things that are happening with us in our lives. And I was talking to a few people and I said, what are those things? What bothers you? And what are some of the things that we are afraid of? And sometimes what we're angry about, we're afraid of. What are we angry about? What are we afraid of? We're afraid of becoming unhealthy. We're afraid of getting something that we can't get out of. We're afraid of money situations that we can't solve. We're afraid of getting older and not having security. We're afraid of how we're going to take care of parents if something goes wrong. We're afraid of death. We're afraid of losing people that we love. We're afraid of losing that job at the wrong place and at the wrong time. What do we do? Everything that you deal with in life is not just practice, but it is preparation for the next step. I think we have taught people for so long that real faith is about avoiding storms, about being able to speak wonderful words and make storms disappear. But Jesus, who is one of the greatest teachers ever, didn't always speak to storms to make them go away. Sometimes Jesus walked through them and ignored them. Sometimes you don't just try to make them leave. You learn to ignore them and walk through them. Either way, the storm is of no consequence. What can I say about life today? Everywhere we look, pick up the newspaper. Now it's not just the newspaper, but we turn on our cell phones, our iPads. CNN pops up, the Washington Post pops up. Something is always going on. And we feel challenged everywhere. Sometimes the opportunity to go higher is in what we've been doing all along. Just preparation. Don't get discouraged. Don't get bent out of shape. Because a lot of what you deal with is preparation. The road signs. Your life, your best life, is up ahead of you. Don't give up now. I believe that thing that you really desire is right around the corner. And I think you're ready for it. Yeah. Make the shift. Hello, I'm Ed Montgomery, aka Dr. Ed. If my voice sounds a little scratchy, don't worry about it. I ran into a bug, the bug ran into me, but I beat the bug. I thought the bug was gonna beat me, but I beat the bug. But still, even after you beat the bug, you still got to wait on things to enable you to recoup. Look, here's what I'm gonna talk to you about. I'm going to talk to you about time and what happens once you believe something to take place. It doesn't happen immediately, but you get discouraged along the way because what you thought would happen doesn't happen in the time zone you expected it to happen. And you get discouraged. And when you get discouraged, you take your foot off the gas pedal. And when you take your foot off the gas pedal, it slows down your ability to go to your destination. And it's just a big mess. All I'm going to talk to you about is the reality of some spiritual things when it comes to getting what it is you really want in life. I am the founder and director of Abundant Life Center, Abundant Life Cathedral, that has been in existence for over 40 years, 42 years. As a matter of fact, yeah, it's around this time. And I have been helping to mentor people spiritually for years and years and years. And people have grown up and they have become spiritual giants all around our country, all around our world. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm also your host on Sunday mornings, which is Sensational Sundays, and also the host at Abundant Life Center, where I am every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. in the city of Katy, Texas. And it's a beautiful experience. You had better get there on time because we're only there about 65, maybe 70 minutes at the most, and we're out of there. But I promise you, it's so fulfilling, and you leave there with a richness in your soul. But not only that, I'm also your host right here for After Dark. After Dark means that it's not after physical darkness, but after whatever goes on in your life where that has brought darkness. Guess what? The light's gonna come. In other words, we may only endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Isn't it interesting that in our new campaigns for voting, right now, Vice President Kamala Harris is going through this whole thing of running for president of the United States. And one of the things that she's running on is this concept or this aspect of joy. In other words, joy does come in the morning. Ronald Reagan did the same thing. In other words, it's morning in America. Joy comes in the morning. In other words, you don't have to live down in the dumps, in the doldrums, in the destitution of life. That might be where you look all around you. But there is something about joy that is not just a mental thing, but it's a heart thing. So listen, let's jump into what I'm going to tell you today. Get your people to hit the like button. Change the algorithms. Okay? I'll probably come back to that in a minute. But if you hit like now, don't wait till later to see whether or not you like it. You're going to like it. You like it now. Hit the like button. Also hit your comments. Let me know where you are. If you can hear me, if I'm coming through loud and clear, say, hey, you are, in your comments or in the chat. I hope that chat is running so people can see what we're saying, what we're doing. And let me know where you're watching this from. If you're not in Houston, Texas, where we are, if you're watching, what part in Texas, or what state are you watching this from, or what country are you watching this from? Shout out to all of you that are watching out of Great Britain. And thank you so much for letting me know how many people we got that are watching us there. I have no idea why they are, but I'm learning. I'm figuring out some things. There's a spiritual thing that is going on. Anyway, just before I tell you to make sure that you vote this year, vote. Don't forget that. See how I threw that in there? Did good, didn't I? One of the things that I have been watching, and that is how easily people become discouraged. In other words, discouraged. In other words, they lose courage or disconnected from their courage. And they become disconnected from their courage or discouraged because something does not turn out the way they thought it would turn out. Now, believe me, I've lived long enough to know this one thing. Things rarely turn out exactly the way you want them to. Life is a crazy thing, and it will take you through curves and bumps and changes and challenges. And when you expect to go down one road, you think I'm going to go down this road straight and get to my destination, just like GPS says, you're going to be there within the next 5 minutes or the next 16 minutes, 16.25 minutes. And you're watching GPS, and GPS says this is going to happen for you until you run into something called traffic. Traffic. Which you're hoping is not going to happen, which you think may not take place, and you're getting upset at GPS because GPS may not tell you that there is traffic ahead. Traffic. Accident. Somebody's car ran out of gas. Somebody hit the railing. Somebody bumped somebody's car, had an accident, and they're waiting on the police. and the tow truck has to pull the car out the way. These are all little things that happen on our travels. And no matter how much GPS says you're going to get there, in other words, no matter how much GPS says weeping can only endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning, what GPS doesn't tell you is all these other little things that can take place between night and morning. Night and morning must happen. It must happen because of the way the sun moves. It's got to happen. But you know as well as I know that a minute can feel like 10 minutes. 10 minutes can feel like an hour, especially if you are dealing with hellish situations. Now, this is not what religion always tells us. Religion always tells us, well, if you just give your hand to Jesus and put your faith in Jesus, then everything's going to be all right. Notice that phrase, everything is going to be all right. Everything will be all right. However, it's what happens between then and all right. What we call faith does not always work that way because we've been taught it works a certain way, but it does not always work that way. Jesus makes a statement. He says, have faith in God. That's out of Mark chapter 11, verse 23, 24. Have faith in God. And I've been dealing with this in Sensational Sunday. You can go back and start seeing some of those clips from Sensational Sunday where I have a little bit more time than here to expand on certain things. Because I'll take that have faith in God and break down everything in it. In that the word have, the word faith, the word in, and the word God, and break all of that down. And what I learned is when you learn to break this stuff down and find out what these words mean, you'd be surprised. But I'm going to tell you a secret from last week that I started. And it came out of James chapter 1, and where it says, count it all joy. Consider it joy when you have different pressures. You can go back and watch the previous After Dark. But it says, the trying of your faith works patience. And the word patience means endurance. That when your faith is tested, your faith produces endurance. Tested faith gives you endurance. The ability to run longer than you've ever run before. Now, what does that have to do with what this whole thing about destination and about how do I get through discouragement? Here is one thing, when you read Bible, what they don't tell you. First of all, the Bible is the history of, that's why they say Judeo-Christian heritage. The Bible, the Old Testament, is the history of the Jewish people. In other words, based on their lineage and how they see things. And some people will say, well, that's 6,000 years old, so the earth is only 6,000 years old. No, the earth is a whole lot older than 6,000 years old. But in that first two chapters of Genesis, Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2, and you have different aspects of creation. They teach different versions of creation. And the reason they teach different versions of creation is because they were written down at different times and at different spaces. It wasn't one person like Moses sitting down there writing, I'm going to write about creation because God told me about creation. That's not the way it works. Different people wrote about creation. Later on, hundreds of years later, other people wrote about creation. And that's why if you ever study into that history, it'll tell you that one set of people wrote these from the priesthood. One set of people wrote these from the regular, ordinary, everyday people. And so, chapter 1 talks about it. God made man in his image, mankind, male and female. God made them in his image. That's how that happened. It didn't say that God made man first and the woman later from the man. It said God made man, male and female. So it means that man or mankind means male and female. Man, woman, a man with a womb. The same, just different, to be able to function as one. But then in chapter 2 of Genesis, it says that God breathed into man, or the same word for mankind, the breath of life. Man became a living soul. It says then God took that man and placed that man in the garden to till the soil. And then later on, God looked at the man, saw the man was lonely, and God made the man go to sleep and reached in and got from the man a rib from the side, and from that side God created a woman. In the next day brought this woman, or this man with a womb, to the man that just woke up from being asleep, that lost one of his ribs, and said woman. In other words, and now this aspect or story of creation was created. But what we have to realize is all of these are metaphors. All of these are not to be read totally literally. They're speaking to us about something. Now, I'm going to reach in that little chapter 2 and pull out one little thing. And this is going to help you, to encourage you in the middle of discouragement. And what it says is that after mankind, or this man, was created, God, who is God? God is not God's name. God is how we see, or the symbol of how we see the nature of God. Puts this man into a garden that was created for them, and says, work this soil, till the garden. In other words, work the soil, work it. And it's so strange that we never really look at this. That the first job of a man was to work the soil of the creation. And here's my point. Here's where I'm talking about discouragement. Here's my point about how we get through the tough periods in life. When I looked at, here we are in these elections, here we are in sides in America, almost like they're split in half, going after each other, one pressing against the other. What does all of this mean? How is all of this working? And how is it all going to work out for our good? Is it possible? Why don't we just leave everything into the hands of the Lord and just let the Lord do what the Lord's going to do? I'm trusting and believing God. Well, you can believe God all you want to, but there is something that you got to do if you're going to get out of this pit of discouragement. But just before I tell you this, let me say this. Get this in. I got about 120 seconds to say this. Take a moment and realize that when we talk to people, we are reaching a lot of people, and they're not just getting our algorithms, but they view these little, I don't call them small teachings, but this smaller aspect of how we teach. People view it for a longer period of time. And that's what makes it what it is. It's not just viewed an average of 2 or 3 seconds or 1 or 2 minutes. People view these teachings all the way through. So I want you to take a moment and realize that what we're doing is helping on a weekly basis push back against some things and pull some of this twisted religion and untwist it and get it out the way, so that people can begin to understand how to live when they open up the Bibles, how to see the truth about some things. I talk about my lion right here. This is lying. I'm not lying. This is a lion. But lion is not lying. This is my truth lion. And so you take the time, and here's how you help us do what we do. It's text to give, 713-742-2787. 2035. Just hit that button. Use your cell phone. Go onto the text message. Text a certain amount, $8, $10, whatever you feel. We're in the, it's probably going to be airing in the month of, maybe going into September, to that ninth month. Well, whether it's $8 or $9, use those numbers. Those numbers mean a lot. You can just type that in, just number 8, put the number 9 in that message, and send it to 713-742-2035. You'd be surprised. Just that right there will, it'll blow up stuff. We'll be able to use it to do some algorithms that you've never seen before. So help me do this. Now, let me get back to what I know you're interested in. How do you move out of that discouragement? If we were sent into that garden to till that garden, and you can find this in Genesis chapter 2, to work the garden, to weed the garden, to plant seed in the garden, that means every time we work the soil, we expand the perimeter of the garden. When we clear out those weeds, we open up more ground to grow good things, or we control the growth of that ground, which teaches us from the very beginning of any kind of religious thought. I don't care if it's Judaism or what religious thought you're endeavoring in, that if you are going to eat the best fruit, you have to work that garden. Discouragement comes when you take courage in working the garden, working the land. What does that mean? If you live in a country where you got to vote to keep democracy, what do? Vote. If you live in a country where you have to be strong in how you raise your children and your family, then you have to be strong in how you raise your children and your families. If we live in a country where listen, you don't push people aside because of their race. You don't see yourself as better because of your particular race. You don't push people aside because of their gender, or say because I'm male and she's female, I'm smarter, or that's the craziest thing in the world. Don't even talk about it. I don't even like saying it. The only reason I have to say it is because I have to. Here's how you work that garden. You start pushing back to change people's minds. Push back and say, does that bother you because she's a woman and running for president? Does it bother you because your wife knows how to keep the books of your home better than you? Let her do it. You'll be better off. Does it bother you who's in charge of you at work? Does it bother you because people are not catering to you just because you happen to be the brother or the nephew of someone? Come on. Don't be discouraged. Work the ground that you're in. And when you work the ground, you just might find yourself expanding your little world into something bigger and more powerful and more influential. I'm not lying. This is lying. I got some more. I'll be back next week. I'm bringing some people in here with me, so this is the first time that I've brought some folk in my prayer closet. I was going to do, we come before thee and we beseech thee, and knee bend and body bow, but you know I don't talk to you that way, right? They don't know that you call me Edward. So they just finished that show that we did, and it's a little different, but I'm hoping we reach some people. But listen, I'm just gonna be real with you. There's some folk in my life that you're gonna have to can you get rid of them? Okay, I knew you wasn't gonna do that, but I'm not talking about rid of them. I'm talking about, can you just kind of push them back a little bit? They're messing with me. Yeah, I know. I'm trusting you for so many things, so many places in my life that I need you in. And I know you can deal with you, I'm not alone, but sometimes there's loneliness. But with you, I can get through this. I'm at the point now that I'm just going to trust you with it. Can you help with the clicks? You know, Lord, I need algorithms. You don't mess with that, right? Okay. So you don't mess with the algorithm, and you can't move those people. Okay. Well, at least I'm going to get a good night's sleep. Thanks for everything else. Couldn't have made it without you. Night, Lord. This room is filled with so much energy. It is filled with abundance everywhere I go, whether I'm in this room, whether I'm in this space, whatever it is, the space where you are, even though there is glass and plastic and Wi-Fi between us, actually we are in the same space. We are in the same place. We are in the moment of now. I want you to grab a hold of this now. First of all, thank you for your contributions. Thank you for your donations, but more than anything, thank you for your partnership, because that's what enables us to reach out and to connect with more people. Take a moment. Let your gratitude show. You can text or give 713-742-2035. That's 713-742-2035. Or you can go straight to myalc.org. That's myalc.org. And you can give. Press that donate button. It will take you immediately. It'll only take a couple of minutes. Or if you're old school, you can write a check. Slip it into an envelope and you make sure you put a stamp on it. And you can send it to Abundant Life Center or Ed Montgomery. It doesn't go into my pocket. It goes into the organization. It's the ministry. And you can send it to P.O. Box 772-300, Houston, Texas, 77215. Those are the ways to be able to send it. But once you send it, there's a way that will be made in your heart. First of all, it will be warm and loving, but it'll also open the doors for other people. And you can't beat that with a stick, as my granddaddy used to say. Thank you so much. Hey, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Hit that subscribe button, smash it, crash it. Let us know you're there.